Welcome to CivilNet. Our guest today is from New York, Nancy Kricorian, who have spoken with us in the past about different topics, about genocide, about her books, about her human rights activities. But today we are going to talk with Nancy Kricorian about a different topic, about the recent Israeli actions against Palestinian people in Gaza, about the escalating conflict there. And Nancy Kricorian is a vocal human rights activist. She has been in Palestine twice as a teacher and as an activist again. She's joining us from New York. Welcome, Nancy. Thanks for joining us.
Great to talk with you this morning.
Nancy, can you tell us your personal experience? You have been there twice, not in Gaza, but in West Bank, although it's Palestine. You have a first-hand experience with the Palestinian people, their sufferings, their daily sufferings. What can you tell us in the light of the recent conflict?
Well, I have been to Palestine twice, to the West Bank, once with the Palestine Festival of Literature, which takes different international writers through the West Bank to do events, teaching, speaking, readings at different cultural centers and universities. So I spent 10 days doing that, and then I went back again to teach at the Palestine Writing Workshop for a week. And I also, as an activist, have been working on the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, which is a Palestinian-led movement to hold Israel accountable for its violations of international law through using boycott, divestment, and sanctions. I've been working on two boycott campaigns against Israeli settlement goods, Ahava Cosmetics and SodaStream. So I've been doing this since 2009. And watching the past, 2 weeks, what's been going on in Gaza, from afar has been extremely painful. I have friends and contacts that I work with, people on the ground in Gaza who've been giving sort of daily updates on what's happening there. And the humanitarian situation is just appalling. And seeing the images that we're now getting from the press, mainstream media, and from activists on the ground via Twitter, and just Palestinian civilians via Twitter and Facebook and so on, is just heartbreaking. And so all the people I work with here in New York, we've been organizing protests, demonstrations, and so on.
Nancy, can you tell us how all this resonate with your Armenian and your Armenian-American identity? Can you tell us more about that?
Right. I would say, there are horrible things going on around the world, for example, in Kashmir, in parts of Kurdistan, and, what's happening to the Uyghur people in China. But I feel personally, and we could also mention Syria, we could mention the Congo, but the reason that I feel personally responsible about Gaza and about the Palestinian situation is because it's the United States government that gives, Israel $3 billion a year in military aid. So I feel like as these rockets are raining down on Gaza, that basically my name is written on them. I am underwriting those mortar shells with my tax dollars. So that's the sort of American angle. At the Armenian angle, I feel like a responsibility to stand up for human rights. I mean, what's happened, there are echoes in what's happening to the Palestinians in terms of, dispossession, land theft, all kinds of horrible repression, inequality that resonates for me as an Armenian because it feels very familiar. Like I was just on an Armenian heritage trip with American-Armenian through Turkey. And it was really, I kept thinking about the Palestinian situation as I was, looking at all these churches now turned into mosques, or cultural centers or turned into barns or whatever, and thinking about my Palestinian friends whose family homes, say in Haifa, are now, one is turned into a museum, an Israeli museum, and it was actually this family home for, 100 years before that.
Nancy, what about the involvement of Armenians or U.S. Armenians in this issue, in the support for Palestinians, or in the social media campaigns? Are there any participants?
Yeah, I haven't met her, but I've been working with her online, you know, and via social media and Facebook and so on. There's a young activist at University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, named Sophia Armen, and she's working with a group there called Armenians for Justice in Palestine, and they're doing terrific work. They're doing coalition work, you know, on the UCLA campus with the Palestinian groups and human rights groups and Jewish Voice for Peace student group. And they've been organizing contingents to go out to the street demonstrations in Los Angeles. And I think it's very inspiring to see.
Nancy, in American media, as it has been most of the times, we see almost one-sided coverage, but it is changing now. In the recent days, we are witnessing more articles which are sympathizing with the suffering of the Palestinian people, which are more critical of the Israeli actions. Can you tell us more about your observations on the changes in the American media?
Right. I mean, I think it's been happening very gradually. I have seen it over the past couple of years. If you look, even I'm, you know, subscribed to the New York Times because I live in New York, that the coverage, it's still not great often because you almost feel that the New York Times reporters are sort of embedded in an Israeli society. And so that you don't sense this balanced coverage, but on the opinion pages of the Times, they've been publishing more and more pieces by Palestinian writers, activist Palestinian writers, Palestinian mother. There was one by a Palestinian mother last week. And I think also what happened was that last week when that terrible incident with the Bakr boys, the 4 boys who were playing soccer on the beach in Gaza, you know, when they killed them, it was directly in front of the hotel where all the international media was staying. So you had people like Ayman Mohaldin, who was working for NBC, who had literally been kicking a soccer ball around with those boys before they were killed, like minutes before they were killed. And you're starting to feel this in the mainstream media in the U.S., that this action, that Israel is losing the media war here and also losing the social media war. Now we have these immediate on-the-ground reports coming both from the journalists who are there seeing this and also from just Palestinian civilians who are posting blogs and photos to Twitter and so on. So you feel this sort of immediacy of the suffering of the Palestinians is actually now entering into the mainstream media, and via social media people are seeing it.
Nancy, what can you tell us about the support, the Jewish American support for the Israeli IDF actions?
My husband, James Seamus, is actually on the board of an amazing activist organization called Jewish Voice for Peace, and it's pro-human rights, pro-equality, pro-democracy American Jews organizing to end, Israel's human rights violations, war crimes against the Palestinian people. And I could say that Jewish Voice for Peace is growing daily, like on Facebook, on Twitter, on their email list, in terms of people coming out for demonstrations. I mean, there's a real sea change among young Jews. I mean, AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, I always forget exactly what the acronym stands for. AIPAC has a stranglehold on U.S. Congress, but you can feel people are moving away from AIPAC positions, which are anti-human rights, anti-equality, anti-dignity, anti-justice, and Jewish Voice for Peace is one of the leading organizations that's organizing around promoting, Palestinian human rights here in the States. And it's so important for JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace, to become strong, as it's becoming stronger and stronger, to say, AIPAC, it doesn't speak for us. The ADL doesn't speak for us. American Jews stand up for justice. So that's happening, and it's amazing. And I feel really privileged to, have my husband be involved with it and to be very working closely with the JVP activists.
Nancy, as far as we know, AIPAC is a very strong organization. Can we literally talk about an eroding support for IPAC among American Jewish people?
Yes, we can actually start talking about that. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not like but it's a sort of dinosaur organization. It's a very big organization with lots of older people in it. But you see, there's even stuff happening on U.S. campuses now where, there's an organization called Hillel, which is on U.S. campuses, is an umbrella group and a place for Jewish student groups to meet. And Hillel will not allow discussion of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. And so what's happened is 3 American campuses last year declared themselves open Hillels, meaning they're not going to allow Hillel to tell them what they can talk about and not talk about. And there's a big campus organizing meeting coming up in October with young Jewish students coming together to talk about doing more of this open Hillel movement, which I think is fantastic.
Nancy, thank you very much for this information and for your opinion. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for caring about Palestine. Thank you for caring about Gaza.
Thank you, Nancy. We will be following this issue, and we will also connect with other activists on the ground and analysts. We will try to deliver information from Gaza and analysis from different professionals also. Thank you for following us on CivilNet.